you mention something about Type 1 Summit?
Oh, well, thank you for that excellent layup.
What is Type 1?
What
does
does
that even mean?
Yeah, great question. So Kardashev scale, everyone's probably heard of this, or maybe you haven't heard of this. Sci-fi, very popular among nerds, I suppose. But the idea is that
he's an author, right?
Science fiction author, yeah.
Who wrote a few books. Was it a particular book that this term came from?
That's a good question. I actually don't know. I mean, it's become such a popular term. I don't remember which book it originated from. But anyways, the gist of it is that taking a step back, as civilization, we are our advancement, our evolution is directly proportional to how much energy we can harness and use. And so this is something that's always bothered me, even though I definitely consider myself an environmentalist. We'll talk about solar and the stuff. I've been in that industry and that world for decades at this point, almost decades. But I really, really kind of despise this idea of like use less. And it's like, dude, use less. Like the whole history of humanity, the whole history of bringing people out of poverty, doing new stuff, of pushing the frontiers is literally directly correlated to using more energy. That's it. Like if you wanted to track one metric to say where are we at as a society, it's how much energy have we harvested for productive or however you want to define that purposes. And so
and more energy naturally becomes better use of energy.
That's correct.
Those kind of go hand in hand, and people seem to, I think, get a little twisted about it. Like using more energy, then the goal, you find you're using more energy and able to accomplish more. You're like, quick, let's use it more efficiently. So in effect, that's like a yin and yang kind of tug, and pull that is kind of aligned with the environmentalist ideal.
Totally.
Right. So it's really both.
Yeah.
Right?
And as we're using more energy, we're doing so in a much more efficient, much cleaner, much like more, I guess you even say humanitarian way. So we can get into all that, but the Kardashev scale itself, type 1, type 2, type 3, type 1, use all of the energy from your star hitting your planet. So that would be all the irradiation that hits the Earth. Type 2 would be use all of the energy from your sun itself. So you build it's like a Dyson sphere or something around the sun. Type 3 would be all from so I guess that solar system, all your galaxy. I have no idea how the hell you get to type 3. Type 1 is very, very, very doable. Type 2 actually is pretty doable. But even type 1 from here, that's a hugely ambitious goal. It's not like where are we? Are we 2% in or 5%? Well, we were debating this in our signal chat.
We're 3 to 4 orders of magnitude away.
That's right.
So away from 100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But much closer than my intuition. Like my intuition before looking at the numbers or really having any idea at all was 6 to 7 orders of magnitude, like 1 million, 10 million times away. But it's only like 1,000 times away.
Yeah. Wow. 3 to 4.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yeah.
Would love to discuss your views, your most recent views on Bitcoin's role in all of this. And I'll bring up a couple of examples.
Please.
Recently, we talked in this show, I don't know, maybe a few months ago, but like it was this year, we talked about how like these data center companies, they either emerged to satisfy AI or they've transitioned from Bitcoin to AI, but that Bitcoin still plays a role, at minimum plays a role to be like a scout, like scouting new physical locations and being the first user of, to build out. And then stage 2 would be to advance it so that AI can be used there. So I assume that hasn't, so that's one way that Bitcoin is related. But what about like 4 years ago, over 4 years ago, you wrote the paper in conjunction with Square and us, which talked about a different application, which was just making it more economical to finance new energy projects.
Yes.
But with a combination of Bitcoin mining, batteries, and solar. And in like an oversupply of solar so that you can address the duck curve. Have your views, so number one, have your views changed on that? Do you still see Bitcoin playing that role? And then 2, are there any other ways you see Bitcoin being part of this?
Yes, for sure. And I should address one thing before I jump into those questions, which I think is important just to sort of tie the knot on this for the audience. So a big part of my thesis in this essay is if the grid is so sclerotic and so fucked that we literally, even if we slashed regulation, which I think, yes, that's part of it, but it's not just regulation. It's also just like the physical infrastructure is so bad and so dated. I think I forgot, like one of the civic engineer groups gave us a D+ infrastructure rating. There's also even if you wanted to build a lot more transmission and distribution, good luck getting transformers. There are no transformers. So there's all of these problems where even if you wanted to slash all regulation, go full Texas, and Texas is doing that, it's extremely difficult to imagine a world where that could happen in the next 5 years. And one of my theses, by the way, is that the next 5 years matters a lot. And so there's also this position in Silicon Valley, which is very popular. And that position is, let's do nuclear. I'm not anti-nuclear. It's cool. There's no way nuclear is going to rock and roll in the next 5 years. And I'm also of the view that, I guess this is a little controversial. I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's kind of true, which is like, we either figure this out in the next 5 years or start learning Mandarin.
Yeah.
That's my take.
I knew you were going to say that.
That's a good line. But it conveys, it's kind of a joke, but it conveys a lot of information. And I'm not anti-China either. Like, good on them. They've been so smart and so ahead of the curve, but it's just kind of like shocking to see the US be so far behind.
Is it Leonardo? Leopold? Sorry, Leopold.
DiCaprio?
Yeah.
Leopold DiCaprio.
Leopold, he touches on the geopolitical ramifications
very well
right at the beginning of that podcast. So
yeah. And I would argue, I mean, again, energy. So one of my core theses on Bitcoin is energy backed money. If you think about it, there really is only one currency of the known universe, and it's always joules. That's it. It's only joules. Everything we've ever used as money is a proxy on energy, full stop. Gold, oil, whatever you want to say, it's always joules. And so, yeah. And what do countries fight over? Power. And what is power? Application of joules. So you think about this, and anyways, there's a lot of interesting rabbit holes. I'm not anti-China, but I do think that it would be radically irresponsible for us to let them just run away with the AI race, because they're, by the way, I mean, you can see in my essay, you can see all over Twitter if you want, just look at Elon's Twitter feed, the amount of solar that China is deploying right now. Like over the next 3 years, the amount of solar they're set to deploy is going to dwarf our entire generation capacity in the United States combined, the entire grid, all of it. And it's literally, it's a vertical line. And that's because they understand what's going on. And so, you know, again, nuclear, yeah, they're building some nuclear, but like, you just can't compete with the cost curves. And so, by the way, I should also clarify, solar plus storage is the missing piece, because if you just do solar, yes, I get it. Sun only shines half the day. Got it. But if you then combine that with cheap enough batteries, all of a sudden you can have many days off grid. And by the way, I mean, if you have other cheap sources of electricity, I'm not anti that. If you have cheap geothermal, great. If you do, for whatever reason, have nuclear that's already working, great. There's going to be many uses cases for nat gas as well. And I actually have some creative ways you can do sort of in Casey's style, create synthetic nat gas from solar and just store it there on site. So you don't even need to use the pipelines. So anyways, that we can go deeper on that if you guys have questions on that. But
Bitcoin.
Yeah, we'll get into Bitcoin.
Well, I have one thing, and I think I mentioned it to you before a few weeks ago, but I was hanging out with a group of kind of sci-fi thinkers, and one guy was saying,
that sounds spicy.
One guy was suggesting that it may be credible to be collecting solar from outer space and beaming it back in some sort of microwave rectangular shape. I don't know. Do you know anything about this? Is this credible? Is this fantasy?
That I don't have a strong opinion on. I've seen strong arguments either way. In the long run, yes. But let's get to that later, because I think that's its own really interesting rabbit hole. So in order to get to Bitcoin, the last piece of my thesis that's important is, one of my goals, or one of my kind of like ideas for the summit is, okay, if the old grid is so broken, leave it, defect, and build a new grid in the style of Buckminster Fuller. You know, instead of trying to change things that are broken, just build something new that makes the old obsolete. Like why waste all of our time, like with all these frustrating, just impossibly opaque rules and all this stuff? Like, let's just go build new.
Yeah.
And so there's obviously many impediments to doing that. But my sort of vision for this is, can we build eventually a terawatt scale, many of them, grid, off grid, solar plus storage, and maybe you need some nat gas, and there's ways to do that, fine. Sites where you don't need the interconnection. I would love to get the interconnection. And eventually my view is we connect all of these sites together and eventually subsume the old grid, and the old grid joins us in this new free market. Now, to your question on Bitcoin, in order for
that's how media has worked, by the way, right? With the internet.
That's how everything works. I don't think this is a controversial opinion at all. It's like, that's how payment networks work. And what's the old story of, like, you know, we started doing the internet over phone lines, right? Beep, boop, boop, boop,
Yep.
And then
modems.
And then we got to whatever we're using now. And anyways, fiber.
But meaning, like, when Twitter launched day one, it was like, you're talking about sandwiches that you're eating for lunch. The New York Times does not want to be there.
Right.
But it's like a new way to broadcast, communicate.
Yeah.
And then over time, the New York Times says, actually, we better join Twitter and have an account.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of that same pattern seems to play out again and again.
So,
and the internet did it to media, but you're talking about how probably gets done in the grid and
For
energy
electricity.
systems.
Yeah. So to your questions, I'll take them one by one. Has my views changed on what's going to be I forgot what you call it, but like the species the lichen?
Well, the paper that we wrote 4.5 years ago, do you still hold that view?
Yeah, I do. But I think one thing I've changed my mind on is I don't think, at least in the short run, Bitcoin is going to be the biggest early adopting species. Thank you. I think it's going to be AI. I think Bitcoin will play a role in this.
No, maybe. I mean, to create the most economical way to build out a new energy system is your current thesis solar plus battery or solar plus battery plus Bitcoin? Because the paper 4.5 years ago was all three.
I think it is short term. I think this is changing still in real time. I don't think we're still at the point where solar plus Bitcoin plus battery fully pencils with the data center yet, but I do know one company where the founder will be speaking. It's not Satoshi, it's another one. Probably giving away too much information. Anyways,
I'm not going to say, but it's one of these two.
I know exactly.
Tells
me that that's going to happen in the next year.
What's going to happen next year?
That there will be examples of totally off grid solar plus storage plus completely depreciated S19 style, like old ASIC miners. And that gets into a very interesting question, because in order for that to work, you either have to be okay running it less than 24/7 if you have the new generation miners, because those are expensive, or you have to buy ones where the capex is effectively zero or super low because you've already depreciated them.
Right.
So I think that's going to happen first. I do expect that to start happening the next year or two. He might be a little overly bullish, maybe not, but I think that one thing I've changed my view on is, in the early days, I thought Bitcoin would be, that's the thing we go and we build new societies and civilizations around Bitcoin mining. Maybe. But I do feel much more confident that first lichen species, or whatever you want to call it, is going to be AI data centers. So my view now is it's going to be, these multi-gigawatt data centers as your first off-taker. And then over time, it's going to grow out. And I actually think, Balaji's idea of the network state, maybe this is how the network state actually evolves, is like you build a giant ass data center in Abilene. Okay. And now you have all this electricity. And because if you're doing, another advantage of doing solar and storage is it's modular. If you do nuclear, you design it for years, and that's, it's a 1 gigawatt plant. That's what you get. Solar, you can just keep expanding. Solar and storage, and so you go from a gigawatt to 10 gigawatts to 100 gigawatts to a terawatt. And I think that basically we're going to see like new cities pop up around these data centers, and Bitcoin will definitely eventually be part of that. And as it keeps getting cheaper and cheaper, the older the miners and the price of Bitcoin keeps going up, it'll probably play more of a role. Where I see Bitcoin playing a massive role in this vision.
Are you all right?
Make sure I got that out. Yes, please, DK. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's good. Thank you. I think it's going to be the Bitcoin network more and more. I think the miners are certainly going to play a role, but I think that if you listen to this kind of crazy vision I'm talking about, if we build completely new grids, you need a way to do effectively supra-state settlement. And effectively the way to meter electricity in real time. And so increasingly, I am extremely bullish on this future where you're in real time doing electrons for Bitcoin. And you can literally just meter that in real time. So much of the failures of our grid, it's the same. Why do we have failures in banking? Why do we have failures in universities? Why do we have failures in home building? Why do we have failures in healthcare? Once you have a monopoly, innovation stops. You can't use the holy nature of prices, which is to bring in all these disparate pieces of information into one piece of information. Like, prices are magic. And this is why I effectively think Hayek was right. And by the way, in order to do this, you're going to need a sly roundabout way to build a new grid, just like you did to take money away from the monopoly there. And it's going to be much harder because we have to deal with atoms, not just bits. But what's missing is, not only the infrastructure, but once you have new infrastructure and you can actually kind of build new rules. And again, I don't think the people like managing these are like evil or anything. I think it's just like they have rules from like 1910. And like, turns out now we have the internet. Turns out now solar's really cheap. Turns out you have batteries now, which can arb in real time. And batteries, I'm increasingly thinking of as the high frequency traders of this whole world. So batteries, I'm more and more bullish on. Like, I would love to like back more battery companies that are building battery fleets, that's very valuable. But
we should get battery people at the Type 1 Summit as well.
Yeah, we should 100% get the best battery people. Michael Dell's kid is doing something fascinating. Genius. He's basically kind of doing what we used to do for solar when I was in Resi Solar, where we would kind of finance the solar panels for you. You pay nothing up front or reduced up front, and then we take a cut of the savings. He's doing that for batteries and oversizing batteries in Texas, which allows them to basically build a giant sort of a virtual power plant or more of like a virtual battery where they can then interact with Texas's best free market. But even Texas's market is not nearly as good as it could be if you had real-time pricing for everyone. And so anyways,
what's the name of that company, by the way? Remember?
I don't remember.
Okay, we'll look it up.
But yeah, I'm super long. We should definitely get them there. Super long. And I think Valor and Founders Fund and some others, I guess that's going to be a good one.
Cool.
Anyways, so what I see Bitcoin doing is enabling real-time markets. And I actually even see a world for the Nostr community. There's so many problems, by the way. There's all these national security risks with the grid. Like that's going to get hacked. That's going to be crazy when grids start getting hacked. Maybe the Spain thing already was. And so with Nostr now, you could do something, and I'm not saying it's definitely going to be Nostr, but Ben from Ellen Bits has been doing all this really cool. He's always doing the hardware tinkering. And like he's already getting this like idea of you could have every device have a Nostr identity. And that's really cool because now you can imagine every load asset, every generation asset, every storage asset has a private key, and that's its identity. And it can then send messages back and forth to each other. And you can really, with Bitcoin, Lightning, whatever ends up working with Lightning and Nostr, the dream is to build a free market for electricity and internet of electricity. That's where I think Bitcoin's going to play the biggest role.
Cool. But by the way, I already got questions from people interested in Type 1 Summit.
Yeah.
And for those that aren't able to come, is anything going to be recorded, or do you think there'll be like some kind of published summary of what we discuss?
Good question. I don't want to commit to that now because I haven't thought about it. And so what I will say is the goal at this point, and obviously this is a collaborative effort, so we should all figure this out together. I don't know, but I would say we should aim for we're going to have some kind of more, discussion panel-y type things in the morning and probably live stream that or at least record it. And then the afternoon and evening, totally Chatham House. So if it's Chatham, we'll have to see like how much we want to summarize or not.
Yeah. Even in Chatham House, we could publish a report and just not dox people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And do you have a sense, like, if we, like, let's say we're sitting here the day after Type 1 Summit, there's been tons of new ideas shared, a lot of new connections made and relationships. Is there sort of like a go forward path? Like, would there be a Type 1 Summit 2 or maybe a company or two that gets started from that? Or like, do you have sort of a goal?
Hive Mind Fund 4.
Steven knows what's happening.
Is that what it is?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, well, if we do a Type 2 Summit, we'll have had to reach Type 1 first,
I meant Type 1 Summit Part 2.
I keyed. I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, I'm going into this with a very open mind. Obviously, one of my goals is I want to fund some of the projects that come out of this. And I've already, honestly, even just yesterday, we've already had, I think, 4 or 5, like I would consider, I don't know if they're elite level entrepreneurs yet, but at least elite level thinkers, people I've been like following pretty obsessively, reach out. I think we'll get a bunch of them to come here. And I don't know which ones are going to be like, maybe some of them will team up. Maybe some of them will, I don't know. So yeah, I would love to fund some of these. And I would also love to help, I have a relatively small fund, so it would be great to get some of the bigger funds and the infrastructure fund guys here as well. We're hoping to get, would love to get folks from places like TPG and Blue Owl and all these, and like, it'd be cool if like maybe we help, at the early stages and they can actually make this like a reality with like the kinds of capital that, you need. It's like tens of billions of dollars. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very open-minded and like, who knows what's going to come out of it.
Cool. I like that. Just like explore the possibilities and see what kind of magic.
And for those listening interested, what's the URL for the website?
So type1summit.org, and the 1 is a numeral. So type1summit.org. If you want to read my essay, which talks more about it, I think it's linked on there, but hivemind.vc/grid.
And people can apply to participate?
So we should talk about that. I mean, I would love to have as many people as possible. I do think, honestly, just from feedback yesterday, I think this is going to like oversubscribe super, super fast. So, yeah, I mean, definitely apply if you're interested. I mean, we're going to have super limited space because we want to keep this really tight and, you know, encourage as much conversation in the Chatham House. But we need to figure that out. I mean, I would love to get more people involved. Yeah, like, I don't know, tell us what you want to contribute, what you hope to get out of it. Those are some of the questions. If you have a contrarian take on the future of electricity, we're interested in hearing that. And yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll probably work as a group to figure out, you know, who comes.
We also talked about different types of people we'd love to have here to make it a richer experience. So,
Yes.
So we'll get to work on our own networks, but if people listening know folks at the big tech companies that work on infrastructure, or energy, data centers, that would be
super helpful.
Helpful. And who else did we name?
The big project finance shops, the people that are financing the big, you know, TPGs, Blue Owls of the world.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Cool.